Hi everybody, this is Meredith Willett and I'm here to help you with your picots, detached picots on the pumpkin hat brim. So these are the little things that we're going to learn how to do today, and hopefully that won't be a problem. It'll be pretty easy. I've got lots to say about helpful ideas for getting those picots just right, and with a little practice you should do them with no problem at all. So to begin, what you're going to do is you're going to turn your canvas upside down and work your hat literally upside down, because picots you want to work towards yourself. So that's, the picots are upside down, pointing down, so we need to be in this orientation. So get your canvas ready and I'll be right back to show you. The very first thing that you want to do is turn your canvas upside down, because your picots are going to be worked from the top down, so you'll be working towards yourself. So we want to make sure that your canvas is upside down, because it'll be incredibly easy, much easier to do. So these picots, because they're facing down, when we put our thread in that's going to hold the very tip of it, it can go down somewhere into your pumpkin. But don't worry, if you've already got it done, you've got all kinds of places where you can pop up, and this is going to be cut away, so don't worry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by putting in just a couple of strands. This is 2 or 3 strands of Splendor, and it's just a scrap that I had left over from something, and we're going to just run it up about an inch or so, and you're going to tie a knot in it nice and tight so it's snugly to the canvas. And then the knot is down at the bottom of the stitch. So in the stitch guide I write for you to take and pull that upward, and that's what I mean by that. Get that knot out of your way. We don't want it to be anywhere near the picot, because you can catch your threads or whatever. So just cut off a little piece, and then we're going to run our thread underneath that when we're ready to do the picot. So this is a 16 braid, and I've chosen it. Number one, it's pink, and you all know I love pink. And number 2 is because you can see it a little bit better when I'm doing it. You are actually going to be using a Krynic Threadworks variegated green, and you can see how the variegated colors come across throughout the picots and how they stand up, because they're stitched in there pretty tightly, which is really great for picots so that they stand up. So we're just going to cut off a piece. Make sure it's long enough, because the last thing you want to do is run out, you know, while you're stitching this picot, because that is not going to be too much fun to have to switch gears in the middle. So I've got probably a roughly 22-inch strand or so. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put a pinhead stitch in where the picot is going to be, so you won't be able to see underneath that picot. So we're going to put it pretty close to the top. And because once I start weaving, I don't want that picot to fall out, I'm going to go ahead and just do like a little extra security there. So just one more half or whole, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. And then cut the tail off so that it's not in my way. So you're going to come up on the right hand side. If you're right-handed, this is the easiest way to do this. Come up on the right, and in my diagram I believe it's number 1, and then you're going to take your needle and run your needle underneath that blue tacking thread, and then you're going to go down on the other side. That would be number 3. No, sorry, number 2. Now number 3 is in the middle actually, so we're going to pull that up, and that thread is actually going to be your center spoke but it's also going to be your wrapping thread. So this is what makes this a little bit tricky. So you want to hold this thread down as it is the center spoke, and then you're going to begin to weave by going under, over, and under. Now, let me just say that this does take a little bit of practice. You just have to do this 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then you'll see that when you sit down to put them on a canvas or design somewhere, that they are much easier to do if you've had a little practice. So if you do have a canvas to practice on, get that out, because that does really make a huge difference. So I laid that down. I'm going under, over, under. And I'm going to continue to hold this down with my finger. I'm trying to make it so that you can see this too. And we don't want that center to move off to the left or to the right. We want it right in the center until it's kind of stable. And the first 3 or 4 stitches are a little wobbly. Then you're going to go over, under, over, holding that top working thread. That's what I call your working thread. That's doing the job. And I continue to weave the opposite direction each way. Now, I like to use my needle kind of as a shuttle and shoving it up to the top, because that kind of keeps it tight and keeps it all together. So try that. It really does help a lot. And then you're going to just keep going side to side, pushing up as you go. Hold threads. You know, sometimes too, as you're working these threads back and forth, they do get a little curly. So go ahead and drop those curls out so that you don't have any other kind of problems to deal with. And also, as you're working down, as you're doing your picot, try to be sure that you're not pulling it too tightly. So sometimes if you're pulling too tight, these side spokes are going to be moving to the center if you're getting in there too tightly. So just make sure that those are running softly parallel to one another and they're not coming in, because it's really easy to pull this thread too tightly. The reason why we also use acrylic metallic or pearl cotton or something that's strong and stiff is so that the picots have a tendency to stay up once you've cut them loose. So they have a little bit more body to them. So you want to use a thread with body if you want your picots to be up and stand up like that. And you want those sides to come in just comfortably. Okay, so when you're going to get to the end of your picot, one of the things that you think you may be really close to being done, but take your needle and weave it through and give it a shove up to the top so you can really see we've probably got 4 or 5 more wraps to do before we're really finished. Get at least one more in here. I'm going to do one more. Just shove that picot up and get one more of those in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm under the last spoke. So what I'm going to do is pull my needle around the front side and then go down towards the bottom of the picot somewhere so that you can't really see where that goes. And pull that under, and then we're ready to detach your picot. And there is a little sweet picot. This one's kind of bumpy and lumpy because we use 16 braid, but when you use 12, they're a little bit more dainty, and you can see that they're easily standing up off the canvas, which is what we want. Now I'm going to end my thread. So how do you do that? Well, if you've got enough thread, go to the next one, but don't risk it if you don't have enough to get all the way through, because obviously they're detached and that can be a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my picot up, and then I'm going to do a pinhead stitch right here, really close underneath. You probably can't even see that. I've got it so close up underneath. And then we pull that tail up to the top and cut that loose. And there is your picot. Now, as you're doing these, they can be overlapped. So you might have, you've got 3 spokes for your picot at the top, at the base of the picot. So you can overlap like that as you're going along. So the side ones can overlap a little bit so that you can get a bunch in there. And you can tell that when Kay stitched this, she did overlap these. And I would also do this after you get your brick stitch in that's underneath on the base. And that brick stitch is going to be all brick in green with 4 strands. There's the soie cristal, I think that's what it is. And yes, it's soie cristal, and it's all the way across. So just stitch over the dark ones because we're creating the dark ones with the picots. After the picots are finished, then you can put these beads on top. So I hope this really helps you a lot. And if you have any questions, as you know, you can always give us a call.